The Pittsburgh Steelers suffered many injuries versus the Cincinnati Bengals, and they just received some bizarre updates on Aaron Rodgers, Jaylen Warren, Darius Slay, and more. But first, before I get into those, make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news and updates. Also like this video. Now, let's get right into it. So, we're going to start off with Aaron Rodgers, because in Mike Tomlin's press conference, he revealed that there is a fracture in Aaron Rodgers' wrist, and that Aaron Rodgers was pushing to go back into the game, but the Steelers were being cautious and sat him out. And then he said that it's still up in the air if he will play Sunday, but he will not require surgery on the fracture in his wrist, and that he has a chance to play. But they want to be cautious because that is his landing hand, meaning that when he braces himself, when he takes a sack, when he falls down, since it's on his left hand, they want to be cautious that if there is impact, it won't get worse. So Mason Rudolph would be in line to start, and then Mike Tomlin also said that Will Howard may be seeing some first team reps here in practice this week. So that's the update on Aaron Rodgers. That one is a little bit weird because it is a fracture, and of course you want to be cautious with that, but because he's not getting surgery on his wrist, that fracture will still be there in a week. So unless it's going to magically heal itself and repair, it will still feel some type of way next time he lands on it. Anyway, let's move over to the Darius Slay updates, because this one's a little bit more bizarre, because we've seen how well James Pierre and the rest of the cornerback group was playing the past few weeks with Darius Slay out, the half the game that he missed, and then this past week against Cincinnati. We've seen James Pierre step up into the cornerback two role, or a starting cornerback role, and how good he locked down the opposing player that he was up against, which was Jamar Chase. So Mike Tomlin says that Darius Slay will return this week to practice, and that he will return to the starting lineup this week once he is healthy, meaning that James Pierre will be back to the bench and barely utilized once again. So those are Mike Tomlin's words, that Darius Slay will return to the starting lineup once healthy. That's a little bit bizarre, like I said, because James Pierre has played so well this season. Darius Slay, just because you paid him $10 million this offseason to come in as a cornerback, doesn't mean that you should just keep him there and keep trusting that he's magically going to get better in his last season in the NFL. He's retiring after this year. He's gone. So it's not like he's a player that's going to develop and you need to see what he has for next season. No, let James Pierre get those reps, because he's been the better cornerback and maybe one of the best cornerbacks in the entire room this season, instead of just giving it back to Darius Slay because he's your top player in terms of being paid, and that he was supposed to be your big acquisition, and you don't want it to look bad on your team that you can't acquire top free agents at the cornerback position. And once again, you missed out on cornerbacks because you signed a guy to a 1-year contract who is out of his prime. So that one's a little bit bizarre because of the way they're handling that situation. I would just keep playing James Pierre until the wheels fall off with him, and then maybe go back to Darius Slay, say, hey, Darius Slay, you get one more week off, we want to make sure that we're bracing you for impact with your head injury and things of that nature. But no, they're just going straight back to Darius Slay and hoping for the best and hoping that he magically gets better in his last season in the NFL. Another injury update is on Jaylen Warren. And this one's a little bit tricky as well, because we've seen the Jaylen Warren knee injury and the fact that he got rolled up on and it twisted so bad and it looked like it was going to be a really bad injury. But then he returned to the game for one play, but a timeout was called right before it, and then the Steelers just never put him back in the game after that moment. They went with Kenneth Gainwell, they went with Caleb Johnson, and Jaylen Warren was on the sideline. And now Mike Tomlin says that Jaylen Warren was cleared to return to the game on Sunday after he got hurt, but they just wanted to protect Jaylen Warren, so they stuck with Gainwell. And that's kind of what they did with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers was pushing to go back in, but they wanted to protect him, so they didn't put him back in. So now that's 2 players the Steelers did that with. But it's a little bit interesting here because Jaylen Warren is a big part of this team. But whenever Kenneth Gainwell is given the opportunity to become the running back 1, we've seen what he's able to do. He puts up big numbers. Early in the season when Jaylen Warren missed a game, Kenneth Gainwell put up big numbers. And Jaylen Warren missing time in this week's game, Kenneth Gainwell came in as a starter and then put up big numbers. So Mike Tomlin has said that Kenneth Gainwell is not just a running back. He's an athlete. He's an all-around player. What he's able to do in the run game, what he's able to do in the pass game, what he's able to do in special teams. He's just an all-around football player. That's how Mike Tomlin literally just described him today, moments ago in his press conference. So it's be interesting to see how the Pittsburgh Steelers utilize Jaylen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell now that Kenneth Gainwell has popped off in terms of going off in this past week's game, and the Jaylen Warren is still suffering from injury. Jaylen Warren's snap count is still so low this entire season, so now you would expect it to be even more limited with them kind of bracing his injury and protecting him from himself. So will his snap count go even lower? We're going to have to wait and see. But that one's a little bit weird too, because he was cleared, but they didn't put him back in. So who's to say that he'll be a full go this Sunday? Or will they just limit him once again? So that's the update on Jaylen Warren. And now we have a couple more updates. Cole Holcomb, he's had an illness for the last 3 weeks. And he continues to be sidelined in practice with the illness. So you kind of think, what illness is taking 3 weeks to recover from? Usually it's 1 week, or you still play in this week that you have an illness. But to miss 3 weeks, maybe going on 4 with an illness, it's a little bit bizarre that that's happening. We don't have an update on him. All we can say is what's going on there with Cole Holcomb. And there's optimistic that he'll be able to return this week per Mike Tomlin, but they really don't know. Also, just to go through the other injuries, Alex Highsmith, he has been limited in practice with his pec injury. He still looks to be recovering from that. That's a kind of injury that Isaac Seumalo was dealing with in practice, and that he was being limited. He would play, and then he missed 1 week, and then he would play through it. So it may be just something that the Pittsburgh Steelers are being cautious with Alex Highsmith and just Isaac Seumalo in general. And this was just a kind of setback for Highsmith. We've seen how well Nick Herbig played, and you can't really take him off the field. So whenever Alex Highsmith gets injured, does he just go straight back to the starting lineup? It's just a question that we continue to have at that edge rusher position because of how well Nick Herbig has been playing. And once again this week, if Alex Highsmith does play, does Nick Herbig just get 20 snaps, 10 snaps, barely play? We're going to have to wait and see. One more injury to report is Keyshawn Williams. He is in concussion protocol, and the Pittsburgh Steelers don't know if he'll be available for this upcoming week's game. But that's why you've seen kind of the punt return game be Calvin Austin, because we've seen Keyshawn Williams return kicks, we've seen him return punts, but then we've seen this week that Calvin Austin was returning punts a little bit, and that he was out there once again after his job got stolen once he got injured by Keyshawn Williams. But now that Keyshawn Williams got injured, we've seen Calvin Austin out there. We're probably wondering what's going on there, but it's because he's in concussion protocol. So those are the updates on the Pittsburgh Steelers injuries, and it's a little bit bizarre what's going on with the Steelers in their injuries and the way that these players aren't being held out or are being held out, and the way that they're being utilized when they come back. The Steelers are just giving it to the veterans, giving it to the players that they paid the top money to, even though they're not performing as well as the younger guys. It's just a little bit weird what's going on there. And one more thing to say is Corey Trice. This is the last week he has to be activated off of injured reserve. He's been dealing with a hamstring injury. He's been dealing with a knee injury. He returned to practice almost 21 days ago. So he has a 21-day practice window to be elevated to the main roster. If he's not, he'll be out for a season. So that's just something to keep your eye on too. Just that popped in my head as we're talking about the injury report for the Steelers. So if he's not activated, this is 2 seasons in the NFL that he would miss the entire season. So obviously you want him to be back. And hopefully he's healthy enough to return this week and be activated. Anyway, that is your injury updates for the Pittsburgh Steelers this week, heading into the game versus the Chicago Bears. And let me know your thoughts down in the comments below about each one of these and how bizarre it is. Do you think Aaron Rodgers should play? Do you think he shouldn't? Do you think Jaylen Warren should split more to reps with Kenneth Gainwell? Do you think he should just be given the starter role? Do you think Nick Herbig should just take over Alex Highsmith? Do you think Darius Slay should take back his job from James Pierre, or James Pierre played well enough to become the starter? Let me know your thoughts down below about all these topics. And also, make sure you subscribe to this channel and turn notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news, updates, highlights, analysis, reports, everything surrounding this team. I've be covered all season long with updates just like this and highlights and analysis after each game. So stay tuned to the channel for everything Steelers, and until the next video tomorrow, I'll see you guys all later. That's it for me. I'm out. Peace.